Hello and welcome to the Full Figured Interviews. This is where we're going to be talking to some of the incredible people in our Full Figured community. I'm James.
And I'm Tim, so let's get into it.
Today we are speaking with the Full Figured Industry Awards 2024 Entrepreneur of the Year honoree, Nikki Gomez.
Hi.
How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. We were really looking forward to this. We were obviously chatting a little bit before the recording that it's been such an interesting time for us doing a bit of background research on the peeps. And girl, you have done a lot. You've done so
Yeah.
much.
I'm feeling tired right now just thinking about it, honestly.
Oh, well, listen, hopefully today will be a little bit of levity and brevity, and we're going to get through it all, and we're going to have yourselves a good time. So, you ready to get started?
Yes, let's go.
Oh, wonderful. So listen, Nikki, babes, what would you say is the first thing you want viewers to know about you?
Oh, good question. Um, I didn't even think about this. Okay, so the first thing I think I would want viewers to know about me is that I am dedicated to helping others achieve their dreams. And part of that is just knowing, coming from where I come from and my background, and having to basically overcome adversity and try my hardest to make a life that makes me happy and fulfills me. And having the opportunity to do that, I like helping other people do the same.
That's fantastic. And I love that there is such this element within the full figured industry about people who help people. Sometimes you hear about these things of people who are very like, it's all about me, what I want, and what I've got to do to kind of get to the next thing. But it feels like in this space, everybody is dedicated to that arms, linking arms, holding hands, and lifting everybody together. And I'd love to hear that that is your vibe, girl. How do you feel like you came to find the love and pride that you have for your body?
Wow. I think a lot of times you meet women who are fuller figured, and that is something that happens to them later in life, or there's, different circumstances that lead to a body change. I've always been thick. I've always been, even when I was athletic in high school and on the volleyball team and all of that, I've always been a bigger girl. I've always been thick. I've always been the girl at the end of the line in elementary school because I was taller. So there wasn't this disconnect between what I look like and what I feel like. And so it was more of just like hoping everyone else catches on that it's okay, that I'm not sickly, I'm totally fine, and this is just the package I come in.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
And I noticed that you used the word thick. So like, what's your relationship to some of those different words? Words like thick and curvy, and even the word fat. Is the
Mm.
word fat something that is like triggering for you, or do you feel like it's something that you've reclaimed?
I'm a little old school. So like, being of a certain age, the word fat had always felt very like a negative connotation. And I understand the psyche behind reclaiming those things and, rewriting it. I've just always felt more of like a thick resonates more, curvy resonates more, like, yeah, I got a little extra fluff. I like fluffy, like I could be fluffy. But, no offense to anyone who chooses to use the word fat, it just never really resonated with me.
I can understand that. I mean, for me personally, it's not offensive, it's not triggering, so I will call myself that plenty of times, but I can understand that's an individual thing.
Mm.
Mhm.
Um, and I know that you are currently you're a plus size model coach and photographer,
Mhm.
and you're based in Tulsa, Oklahoma, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So what's the vibe of the plus size industry in the Midwest? Like, I would think that it would be kind of thriving considering the population of the Midwest tends to be on the larger side, but am I correct in that assumption?
I think you're correct in the assumption that women are definitely fuller figured here. That's more the norm, especially, women in their 30s and up. It's just what it's like here. But as far as the industry and acceptance and all of that, it's not quite what you think it would be, given what we just said. Tulsa itself, uh, I live downtown. So in the downtown area, it is very hip. There's a lot of young people here. There's a lot of trailblazers. And it's a very big emerging indie fashion scene that started here recently. But as far as Tulsa as a whole, I don't see a lot of fashion outside of the downtown area. And so, it's kind of a slow roll in that direction. I did live in Minneapolis for a while, and I also have had a couple of models that I worked with who are from Minnesota. And there is more of an industry there as far as like Target is there, and there's a couple of other clients out there as well, but not so much in Tulsa right now.
I mean, as an Australian living in the UK, I'm always so fascinated with, America is the 50 states. And as much as I know that there are going to be things that are consistent across the board, I've heard from people that depending on which state you live in, things can be radically different in acceptance from everything queer and women's rights and all sorts of things that go on, really. So the idea of like what is being promoted or really supported and championed with size, inclusivity, fashion, access, and all those things. I'm always really curious to know what's happening where, because I think it doesn't really get talked about enough. And you sometimes, I think, look at a place and go, question mark? No information available. What's happening here in a place like Tulsa, Oklahoma? So really appreciate you sharing on that.
Yeah, thank you for that point, James. That's actually a really good point. Mm-hmm.
Of course. Now listen, I want to dig a little bit into your past because in 2011 you starred in, from what I can see, was one of the first plus size reality shows, which was big, sexy, and I'd be curious to know what was happening in your life at the time that led you to want to take part.
Oh my goodness. Okay, going back in time right now. All right.
Take it all the way back, girl.
Let's go back. So back in 2011, I actually was newly single. So I had been married and we were separated, and I was, we were about to be divorced. So I was basically out of that situation. And at that time, I actually had seen several different people that I knew personally on different reality shows. And ironically, I just kept thinking like, oh, it's almost my time. Like something's gonna come. I don't know. Let's call it intuition, call it psychic ability. Who knows? I was like, it's about to be time. And a model friend of mine reached out to me and offered me an opportunity. She said, there's this casting director, and she wants to create basically a plus size reality Sex in the City. And she was like, they need one other person. And so I think you'd be good for it. So she gave me the information. I contacted the casting director and reached out and had a little meeting with her. And basically in this meeting, it's kind of like she did B-roll. She did a little interview with me on camera. And because I was newly single, I was very much like an open book. I was like, I'm dating the way a man dates, and like, like all of this, because I'd never been single in my life at that point. So I was like, just shared probably too much, but they love that. If you're ever trying to get in reality TV, aside from being something you're not, being authentically yourself and sharing to the point that you have no filter is probably going to help. So I did share a little too much, and then before I knew it, I was cast on this opportunity, and I was working a job full time at the same time doing customer service. So it was kind of like a juggle between creating this show and trying to also balance being a newly single woman in the world.
I didn't actually get to watch any full episodes. I don't think that they're currently available to stream, but I did get to see a clip, and it was from the moment where you were all in a bar riding a mechanical bull.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a very funny clip, very funny clip. And I remember it's funny that you said that it was supposed to be the plus size Sex in the City, because that's kind of the vibe I got immediately. I was like, yeah. They've clearly filled an archetype for each person that'll be on this show representing different things, and I'm sad that it only managed to make the one season, right?
Yeah, it was 3 one-hour episodes. From what I understand, that was a really interesting time for the network. They were changing presidents of the network, and the new president wanted to go in a different direction, so we weren't renewed. But it was a lot of fun. And that fun fact, I was actually very drunk before that scene because I had filmed a breakup scene with someone I was seeing prior, literally. And we went from that breakup scene where we're drinking wine and I'm crying to the mechanical bull scene where we're doing shots and I am wasted. And I lost my brand new iPhone that day. So it was a whole
no.
No. Oh, well, that's a question. Like, do they insure things like that? Are they just like, listen, girl, we got you, like it's in the budget, or were you just kind of like left out to be like, no, gotta sort it?
I had to replace my phone. They did not help with that. And
Mm.
just so you know, most shows do not pay, like reality shows don't pay very well. Like you're lucky.
I've heard
That's the whole
that.
point. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, darn it, there go my dreams of being like a zany Australian breaking into the American zeitgeist by being wild on TV. We
You
don't.
still could.
Hey, listen, if you see me, pay me.
Exactly that.
That's the only request. Oh my goodness. And I know you did a couple of other shows as well. I know you did Motel 666, you've done Fashion News Live, and you were on Curvy Girls. And I do want to ask, right, like in an era where people, I think, are being a little bit more critical of reality TV, what is it about the medium that you really vibe with?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that I would do it now. So 2011, different time frame. Um, that experience just overall illuminated so much to me as far as production is concerned. So like right now, I'm a big reality TV fan as a viewer. And what I do is when I watch it, I am analyzing production. So I can kind of tell like how things are edited, why they're edited the way they are, why are these people put in these situations. Like I can even tell if the producers ask them to say certain things because I've been in that position already. So for me, it's like it's so entertaining just to like analyze all of that. At the time, I felt like representation was very important.
Mm.
I did not see a positive version of my body type or my personality on television. So literally Big Sexy was the first plus size reality TV show, at least in the US, that I'm aware of. And so having that and having it be a positive representation of a plus size body and plus size women was groundbreaking. And that was something I'm so proud of because I didn't grow up seeing any of that. And being an example for younger women was really important to me.
That's fantastic.
That's
And,
amazing.
on that point, I'd be curious. Do you find that over the years has anyone really reached out to you to say, "Hey, I remember seeing you on TV and you're the reason I felt a bit more comfortable in myself." Have you ever gotten feedback like that from people?
Yes, yeah, yeah, thankfully. And it did happen. It happened shortly after the show ended. It happened while it aired as well. We actually, I don't know if you remember Fashion Night Out in New York, but there was this whole thing where, there was designers in different stores on Fifth Avenue, and there was always celebrities and stuff like that. So we got to go to Fashion Night Out, I think maybe two different locations in New York City, one in Brooklyn and one on Fifth Avenue. And people just came up and shared their love and their appreciation for us and our representation. And then afterwards, we actually received emails and phone calls. I actually was on a call with someone who was in the hospital and talked about how impactful the show was and seeing us on that show, and how positive it made them feel about themselves.
I'd like to take it back for a second, back to you had mentioned about being in production, which is so cool because you were you when you came into the industry, you were managed by Coastal Management, and you actually went on to launch their first plus size division. Where did you get the ambition to do that at that time, to finally say like, look, this company does not have a division for these models. I'm going to be the one to step up and create this.
Yeah, so at the time when I started working for I'm sorry, for Bicoastal, I was already modeling for, let me see, maybe like 7 years at that point. And so I had all these experiences with other agencies and in the industry. And here I was at Bicoastal, which was still kind of new at that point. Maybe they were about a year and change old. And they had plus size models doing their fit, but they didn't have a plus size print division. And they had just expanded out into commercial print. And I was like, well, if you're going to expand out in one direction, you have to also include plus size, and there's no reason not to. And so, being that I was very fortunate to be in the agency at that time, and my boss, the owner of the agency, Melissa Young, she was so flexible and open and receptive to feedback. She was like, "Oh yeah, then let's just do it." And so that's kind of how it happened. It was just like the perfect time to be there and to help facilitate that change.
Mm.
But still monumental. I mean, because you decided to, you were the one. And how long would it have been before someone else decided to step up and do it, you know? You took
Thank
the
you.
initiative, you struck when the iron was hot.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So you go through these experiences in life, and you often just like I keep moving forward, and sometimes I forget to like look back and be like, oh, like that was. I'm glad I got to do that. But I'm really glad I got to do that.
I can identify with that on a certain level, especially professionally. I'm a nurse by trade, and quite especially during the time of the pandemic, people were saying, "Oh, like your nurses are heroes," and the whole like not all heroes wear capes thing. A lot of us who were working on the floor at the time were just like, "I don't know what the big deal is. We're just doing our job."
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for that, because that was a very crazy time, and I'm glad that you're okay and you're here still.
Yeah, it was definitely it was a difficult thing to navigate.
Hmm.
And speaking of health matters, and I know that this is a more difficult subject. In 2014, you had a health scare.
Hmm.
Um, did that lead you to reconfigure your approach to health?
I could say probably, yeah. I was just going about life like you normally would. You know what I mean? You have your doctors, you have your, annuals, whatever. It was not something that I gave much more thought to as far as holistic approaches.
Mm.
But when that happened, after I got out of the hospital, I was prescribed a lot of medications. And I don't want to give medical advice. People do what's best for you, listen to your doctors, but I chose not to take the medications. And one of the reasons for that was I knew that there were a lot of side effects to the medications I was prescribed. And I wanted to go about it more holistically and listen to my body and my intuition. And I did. And, 11 years later, thankfully, knock on wood, still here. All is good. But yeah, I think so. It led to a lot of changes for me, both spiritually and health wise and professionally.
I mean, and you definitely have a light about you. I mean, you're radiating off the screen.
Oh, thank you.
Well, and like there is that glow about you, the glow of happiness, the glow of joy, the glow of being healthy. Like, this is, and I think that's probably one of the things that the FFIAs meant, to recognize in the first place was like, this
Mm.
is a great example of what we can achieve, what we can be.
Y'all are
100.
gonna make me cry. Trying to get through a podcast.
Well, the whole point of this series, when we first talked with Tawana, shout out Tawana, girly,
Yes,
when we,
Tawana.
when we first started talking with her about this, when Tim and I came to the fires last year, we were, well, I say we, it was me. I was the emotional one. I was like, people didn't look great. People looked phenomenal.
Amazing.
People weren't just happy, they were ecstatic. The energy in the room was electric, and we kept commenting to each other the entire night. There is something here, just like what this space is, what the meaning here is, the people that are involved. And when we spoke to Tawana about doing this series of interviewing the winners and the honorees, we really wanted to highlight the excellence of the people. Not just, of course, what you've done and celebrating, yes, you've done this, but also who you are, because you take this recognition, you take it into your community, you take it into your field, you shine a light, and that brilliance pays it forward to the people who are going to get to come in next year and all the people who come after that. It builds on itself. So, baby girl, we recognize and we see you for everything that you do.
Thank you. Again, I'm gonna cry. But, just to add to what you said, it's the community like this, the plus size community is a beautiful community. It's a supportive community. And a lot of that comes from feeling not seen by the main industry for so long that we form a family, and it may be distant and it may be all over the world, but when we get in a room you can feel that bond. And there were people there that I've never met in person, and people I hadn't seen in years, and people I've coached, and it was just magnetic to be around their energy. It was like a family reunion, literally. Yeah.
Absolutely. Certainly, we were sat there going, we're really a part of this. And there's almost
Yeah.
something very edifying in the moment that, like, you didn't know in your conscious mind that you needed to have someone say it to you, but in the spirit, you felt it like, oh no, I'm here. I'm at home. These are my people. And you feel it. And it just, there's nothing quite like it. And so this is a little message out there. Anyone listening, this is your home, baby. Come in with all this thickness and all this joy and all this good, and you will find a space and a place with all of us. That's what we're here doing today.
Yes.
Now, I do want to bring it to that because after this, of course, you have gone on, you have been a model, coach, and a photographer. But I wanted to bring this up because you are also an angelic Reiki practitioner. And as much as you want to stole upon your spiritual values and everything else, this is your moment, your space, your place. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, the best way I could describe angelic Reiki is that we live in a 3D world. You know, everything is very dense. The earth is in 3D. We can all agree on that. And what I get to do is I get to pull in a higher dimensional energy and I help facilitate the healing for others. So I get to channel that energy through me into the people that I work with. And, you know, what it really does is it breaks up blockages. It helps release, you know, helps heal traumas. It helps people start to see their potential. But it is all about, you know, the person that I'm working with and what they need and how receptive they are to that experience.
It sounds very straightforward to me, and honestly, sounds about on par level with most other spiritual ideas that people talk about in the mainstream anyways. I mean, I won't speak for Tim, but I identify as agnostic, so, you know, very much in my realm of like, you know what, it's all out there. It's all energies, and, you know, if it's positive, and if it's bad juju, put that away, you know? We don't need to be inviting the negative, just invite the good. Very that.
Yeah.
I've had some experience with Reiki. I have gone to a goddess temple where they were teaching classes and then giving Reiki sessions. So I went and had a few Reiki sessions done.
How did that feel for you?
You know, it was quite a while ago. To be completely honest, I do not remember precisely what area of my body I had them work on, but I think it was to help me sleep.
Okay.
And I think, at least for the time, I slept a little bit better.
Good. Well, that's good. I mean, you know, it's such a unique individual experience for everyone. I've worked with people who have had other kinds of issues where maybe they've had like emotional blockages or they've had issues going after things that they want in life or, you know, and just in those sessions, them feeling at ease and like it's possible facilitates change, you know? And so if I can help just bring someone peace within themselves and realize that with that peace you can do something, maybe it will calm anxiety or something, then great. That's, you know, that's the beginning of something new for them.
And again, it's all that like you radiate like this very approachable, very like, oh, everything's gonna be cool. Nikki's here. We've got this, y'all. Like, and it just again the energy that emanates from you. So no matter what language an individual might use to express their own ideas of spirituality and religion and whatever terms and things that they use, I think you represent something really positive, and I feel like that is absolutely something to be celebrated. I love it.
Thank you.
I would like to know though, as you've gone on in life and, you know, you lean into the Reiki side of things, how has your perspective of size, spirit, and intuition shifted over time?
Wow. Okay.
We're digging deep with these questions.
You are. I love this. This might be one of my, I mean, no offense to all the other podcasters, all the podcasts I've been on. This might be one of my favorites because it's like, oh, I get to really think and digest this. Okay. So just reframing the question. So you said, how does it shape my, can you repeat the question just so I can get
Of course. So it was essentially wanting to ask, you know, as you have gone on in life, when you consider size, faith, intuition, your journey in the world, how have those things interplayed with one another, and how has your perspective on life shifted over time?
So I would say over time, my perspective, because of this journey, has led me to understand that things are less controlled as we may think. Like we may want to plan things very precisely and have a predetermined outcome of what we think it should be like, but life may present itself in different ways. And so, like, and you feel it. And a lot of times we feel it in our gut. And we know, like, oh my gosh, I should try this thing. Or why am I thinking about this thing nonstop? And, and then our minds might go, oh, you can't do that. Or why, focus on what you're doing. But I found that when I listen to that, it leads to amazing opportunities and breakthroughs in life. And so, for instance, Tulsa, right?
Mm.
I'm a New Yorker. I was born in New York. I spent 43 years, I'll say it, 43 years of my life in New York City. And I had this amazing opportunity to apply to go to Tulsa. Never been here at all. And applied, had no idea in the middle, literally in 2020, had no idea what was going to happen. Thought I didn't get it, honestly, because I didn't hear back for a long time. And then I was like, you know what? I want to open myself up to this even more. So I aligned myself with it by changing my wallpapers on my phone and my computer and all that to images of Tulsa, and just like really leaning into what I could learn about Tulsa. And then before I knew it, I found out that I was accepted. And lo and behold, when I moved here, I walked down the street and the same image that was on my phone, I passed, and I actually can look at it from my window now. So, allowing myself the ability to let go of what I'm used to try something new because my gut says it's okay, changed everything.
Wow.
I guess I'm gonna have to start doing that with Paris.
And there you
Put
go.
Paris on my phone, Paris on my computer screen,
Parisian
Paris
music.
on my bathroom wall.
Exactly. Tim loves
Do
to
it.
say he was born wrong. He should have been born like a Parisian woman with the beret and
My life just would have been a lot easier if I had been born a French woman.
Do it. Do you have connections in Paris? I know someone.
I have none.
I can introduce you to someone who's amazing.
see, and is
Even
the
his friends.
manifesting? We are in the act of conversation. It's happening. But this
It's
very much brings to mind the adage where people correct, because people say grass is always greener on the other side, and people correct and they say, no, 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 grass is greener where you water it. And sometimes I feel like we forget that part. We get very accustomed to someone else has got something that I want, or someone else is doing something. We're the same age, we're the same this, that, the other. Why don't I have this? What am I doing wrong? X, Y, Z. Maybe starting from the position of, are you giving enough like love and attention to the garden that you have in front of you? Because, maybe with a little extra fertilizer, a little more TLC on them plants, baby, then flowers will grow.
literally, gratitude is the greatest manifester. And I can speak from experience. Every time I'm grateful for something, I get something that related to it that I want. So I'll give you one more example
Yes.
on this topic. So for years, I moved around a lot, like not just New York to Tulsa, but like within New York, my whole life, I moved around probably as many times as old I am. So probably almost 50 times I moved. And every time I moved, I was like, well, I'm not going to decorate. I'm going to move. Like, what's the point? Like, why hang up pictures if you're going to move? And then I found that I said, maybe if I appreciate what I have, it will give me the thing that I want faster. And so I did that. I literally decorated my apartment and kind of laid it out as if it was my dream apartment. And then within months, I had my dream apartment, my literal dream apartment. And so I think that appreciation brings forth something that is aligned to it faster.
Mm.
Which ties in really well to a question that I was going to ask about, like, how do you project that energy? But you've really just beautifully explained how you manifest it by projecting it, by bringing it into reality. Very not too dissimilar from philosophies that we've heard before. But I mean, if it works for you, it works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point where you are the Entrepreneur of the Year honoree for the FFIAs. So what does it feel like to be a part of that legacy now, to have your name stamped along with the FFIAs?
I think I'm still processing. I feel, the honor, and I've expressed that to Tawana, the honor of just being seen by them and being appreciated by them. It means something more when it's your industry, when it's something that you've spent decades of your life, committed to on in many different ways. And then to have them recognize you and show you that love and appreciation is huge. And when I got her email, I literally cried. Like I was like, I couldn't believe that it was real and that she saw me, and she saw the work I was doing and appreciated that because when you're a solopreneur and you're grinding and you're doing your thing and you're putting yourself out in social media, you don't know if it's really connecting. You feel like you're kind of out in screaming into the wind, like, can you hear me? And then to get that confirmation that you are being heard and you're seen and people appreciate you is huge. So I'm just honored to even be a part of any of that and everything that Tawana is doing.
Oh my God.
That was very much the case for us as well, because we have been grassroots from the beginning. We continue to be grassroots. And, like you said, you don't know sometimes if you're just screaming into the void because you might see some numbers racking up, but you're not necessarily getting feedback. And sometimes you just get discouraged.
Yeah.
So, an industry like this that comes along and says that we're gonna reward this, we're going to showcase it, we're going to make it front and center.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
It's so important. And honestly, I would say, considering how bold I am, you have absolutely scalped me with your description of what it's like to be out here doing all of this work. And, as you exactly said, sometimes you are just ear cupped to the wall. Like, can I get a whisper of a response, of a suggestion, anything at all? And I know people love to, they'll say, no news is good news. No feedback means there's no critiques, keep moving forward. And of course we do that because you're driven by that internal notion that says you must continue doing. We feel the same way with what we do with our podcast. It's the knowledge that, people can say whatever they want, but no one else has turned around and started doing a podcast, talk about what we talk about. No one else is out here doing what we're doing. So if we stop, who knows who would pick it up next? Who knows how long it would take? And the people clearly need the thing. And it is the same with you, and not just in, of course, Reiki healing and the healing that you provide to people, but in the model coaching, in the photography, in your presence, in your smile, and in your everyday. Nikki, you bring it, you give it, you serve it.
Oh, thank you. And I want to say congratulations to you too for your honor. Cause I was there. I was so you were new to me. And so I was like, oh, this is really cool. But congratulations. What you do is so important. It is so valuable and reaching people that need to hear this and be inspired by the messages that you're sharing as well.
Thank you.
And I do just want to say, there was a quote that you gave once before. You said, when we're in a space where people are committed to doing the work, we can channel the energy to work so much more easily. And I know that's what Tim was talking about, that thing that you've already explained. Like, it is bringing the right people in. I want to ask you here, maybe let's say this is a little bit of advice to anyone who's maybe looking to you, looking to follow a similar trajectory, or looking to you as that source of inspiration. For anyone who is wondering, how might they begin to ascertain that for themselves? How can someone begin the process of starting to go, who's with me? And not necessarily saying, get rid, because we're not trying to bring any negativity in, but how do we start to do that work so that we can get to that next step?
I would say, just go after, you just have to do it. There's lots of, sometimes when you want to do something, you look at other ways people do it and you say, okay, how did they do it? Let me try to do it like they did it. And let me start like they started. But I firmly believe everything is different for each individual person. So it's my way, I can speak to my way. My way was I watched, so I didn't go to school for photography. I did shoot my yearbook in high school mostly, but it wasn't something that I studied. And then being in front of the camera illuminated so much to me as a model, and then having the opportunity just to play around with my friends for a job that I was at and explore opened up that, oh, I have an eye for this, right? So then I started to teach myself in YouTube University and all of that stuff and practice on friends. And when you really want something, you got to forget about it being perfect. You have to forget about doing everything the way that you think it should be done. Just express it, get it out, and you'll figure it out along the way, and it will get better as you go. So, if I look back at my shoots in 2007, I'm not going to be like, wow, that's the most amazing. Like, I look back and I'm like, okay, good thing I got clients back then. Like, like it started something. But, I've learned so much since then. I've grown since then, and that is part of the process. And I think a lot of young people, even with the passion that they have, they're harder on themselves because the beginning process doesn't look like what they think the final should look like, and then they give up, because it should be perfect right away or should be the best. But you'll never get there until you actually grind and have the experience to grind through it and grow.
This is something I'm curious about, just from photographer to photographer, because I do it as a hobby, and I did study it a little bit in school, and I almost went to art school for it.
Awesome.
But do you see everything as if through the lens of a camera? Like almost everything is like, that'd make a great photograph, that'd make a great shot. Like that's something that I did even before I knew that I was into photography. I would just sort of look at the world that way. And as another creative minded person, I'm just wondering, like, do you see the world that way as well? Like that would make a great photograph or that'd make a great shot?
I think I'm a feeler. So it depends, like things make me feel. So like if you look at I can tilt a little bit. So like aesthetics, balance, color, art, expression, like every time I can have something that is beautiful around me, and then I lean into it, and so everything is artistic expression. Before photography, I drew as a child, so I can draw. That was a big part of my life. I used to do interior decorating to my own room. So I would paint my own room even at age 10. I was painting, I was putting up wallpaper, I was putting up border, stuff like that. So I think it's an innate thing. When I'm shooting a person, I'm actually photographing a person, before I even click the shutter, the images start flooding into my head. So the pictures do show up. And then when I get to create them, it's this whole level of excitement, like I did it. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Interesting. It's kind of like when film, you have to storyboard your shots before you film them. So it's a little bit like that. You kind of already know and seeing it. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, it often happens when I'm in conversation. So like I'll have the person in front of me I call it, I do intuitive photography, intuitive natural light photography. So I've tried to actually physically storyboard, and those are probably my worst shoots. But in the moment, if I'm photographing you, James, we're connecting and looking at your face, and then I can see the images in my head in that moment. And then as we go through the day, new ones appear and we create them.
Oh. Thanks. Well, listen, first time I'm down in Tulsa, Oklahoma, girl, we first of all, we got to meet up and we got to get a feed, and we also need to take some photos, because that would be fierce and fabulous.
Yes, come to Tulsa.
I want to ask, because I feel like, as plus-size people, sometimes conversations around food can make us feel a little certain type of way. So I've got 2 questions for you here. I want to know from you, what food gives you life, and what food brings you peace?
Ooh, okay. Food that gives me life is the food of my ancestors, food my grandparents made, which is Puerto Rican food. I make Puerto Rican food at home, and there's not very many restaurants here. There's a little pop-up that comes every now and then, and I try to support. But for the most part, I'm making the food here. Actually had some today for breakfast, some pollo guisado, which is chicken stew. That I made. So love anything that reminds me of my family. And as for gives me peace, when I lived in New York, I say that because I have not found it here. But when I lived in New York, comfort food was chicken parm hero. A chicken parm hero with some toasted bread and extra marinara sauce. Like that was just, I miss that so much. And sometimes Chinese food, which is also a little hard to find here, that lives up to the quality of what I want. Panda Express does not count. Thank you, Panda Express, but count.
Yeah.
Yes, when I very first came to America, and I was the fascinated foreigner, I was like, listen, I have heard about this Popeye situation, I have heard about Panda Express, I've heard about all these names. Bring me the food. And I tried to stick my little plastic fork in the orange chicken, and I was like, this is toffee. This is a sugar crystal crust. This too much, baby girl. So I'm convinced.
Well,
I'm gonna have to come around with my clipboard, start making my notes, and just be like, listen, I've got some feedback. I need to let you know.
Yeah, especially if you go to New York, I'll tell you like some places.
Mm, absolutely. What aspects of plus size everything? What aspects of plus size get too much shine, and what do we need to see more of?
Ooh, another good question. You guys are on a roll. Okay, let me think about this. Um, I think, and I'm not throwing shade to anyone, but to me, just we need to normalize plus size bodies across the board. Like it has to be included in every form of media we see, and not as like, look at this plus size body, but more like, yeah, that's the norm. Like, people's sisters are plus size, their moms are plus size, their daughters. Like it's not a whole weird thing. It's just part of the reality of life. If we look at the statistics, I think the average American woman's probably a size 14, 16 now,
Yeah.
16 probably. So it's like, it's not this anomaly. So I think the more we can normalize all the aspects of plus size and not just fetishize it, because that also can be a problem. Sometimes we go a little too far over. And what I mean by that in plus size fashion, it's like now we just, sometimes we just have a lot of naked plus size women. I'm like, where's the fashion of it?
Yeah, what do they call that? Like, oh gosh, Tim, you told me about this term before. It happens with POC, it happens with queer people, like depression.
Tokenism?
No, depression porn, what do you call that? Uh, I forget the term, but essentially it's the whole, oh, if we're going to show this, we want to show this in the most like visceral way possible. It looks textured and gritty, and it's like, yeah, sometimes it's that, but also sometimes, like, as a gay person, I just want to like cuddle up on the couch with a hot chocolate. Like, I'm not, it's not
Yeah.
always, or it's not always all this. I absolutely agree. It needs to be the spectrum. We need to see all of it, but we need to give shine maybe to more of the stuff that isn't being shown enough, which is just looking glamorous in a piece.
Exactly that. Exactly that. Like feeling your best no matter what. The more we can do that in this industry, the better. And I know there's always going to be haters and there's always some people who don't understand it, but the ones who need it will see it and it will affect them positively, and that's what we need.
So what's next for you, Nikki? And what do you want to do after this? Like what's the next thing on the horizon for you?
That is a good question. I mean, all these questions. Okay, so I'm very much an intuitive in the moment person. So I will say the last year I started modeling a lot more again. And so expanded out into two more agencies. So I'm represented in New York, LA, Denver, and Atlanta. And with that, started booking more commercial work. And so the more I do, the more I get to share, the more it's like learning all over again, new information. And so I'm happy to lean in more into that because I'm enjoying it. So more modeling, photography has picked up a lot lately in Tulsa. So I've been doing things like engagement shoots, maternity shoots, food shoots, product shoots, headshots, things like that. I'm loving, especially when things in our political climate feel a little heavy, the opportunity to create makes me feel better. And if I can contribute more to society in a creation sense, then I'd enjoy that. And yeah, it's kind of where I'm at, but I'm always open to like new opportunities and seeing where things go. I'm having so much fun. I'm like, we need to hang out more. Like, this is
Oh,
cool.
Well, baby girl, this
I'm
is
glad that people get that vibe, because like we do have with some people that started off as guests became regular friends. And it's like, and I guess, and James has mentioned before that there's just a vibe about talking to two friends. So,
You've made me feel very comfortable and like we're just hanging out, having a good conversation. So
oh,
thank you for
good.
that. I appreciate it. Tim, where
fabulous.
are you located?
Oh, I'm in Cleveland.
Cleveland. Okay, I have not been there. Okay, and
There's no
James,
reason to come here.
James, you're in the UK.
I am. So I'm originally from Perth, West Australia, but I now live in London, and I do enjoy America. I've been a couple of times now. Um, yeah, so I'd like to come back and see more of it. I'd like to meet more people. Your gorgeous self, of course. So got to make it happen.
Yeah, I love Australia. I haven't been yet, but I've been to London. And London was great too.
London's a bit of a party town. If you know the right people, you know the right places. You can be out from dawn till dawn, till dawn, till dawn, and keep it going, keep it moving. I, however, like to be in bed by 11 o'clock, preferably.
Or earlier.
Well,
Well, I've been dubbed the downtown socialite of Tulsa, so I like to go out. I have no kids. I'm child free, so I can party.
fabulous. Oh, Nikki, thank you so much for joining us today. This was an absolute pleasure. Where can the viewers find you online?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website. It's thenikkigomez.com, as well as Instagram, which is also at @thenikkigomez. And I'm also on Facebook. Just look up Nikki Gomez, you'll find me. But yeah, thank you so much. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you for joining us.
thank you so much, honey. And that's a wrap it out here with this week's Full Figured interview. You can find me on Instagram at Stanham.
And you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Thicky Mouse.
Now, please like this video, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Comment below and let us know your thoughts on today's conversation. Share the video with your friends and encourage them to tune in next week, where we'll be speaking with more full-figured excellence right here on the channel. So until then, have a great week.